Hi, well, here we are. We're on the Porcelain project. Give you a bit of an update. I suppose one of the things I want to talk about is about characteristics of porcelain and when you're buying that porcelain. Okay, there's been lots said out there by a lot of people on the internet. You'll find that suppliers will give a limited amount of information about porcelain. It's not very often you'll see a company that will suggest on how to lay porcelain. It's all a bit ambiguous. There is some information out there, but there's not a lot out there. They tend to not get involved. Manufacturers of any products try not to get involved in the installation of porcelain, and with lots of other products as well. So when it comes to porcelain, it's basically a product that's fired at high temperatures, 1200 degrees centigrade. Okay, so it's fired at high temperatures. They can almost replicate anything that we see or we've got when it comes to igneous stone, sedimentary stone. They can slate. They can sandstone. They can create the same. They can replicate the image. Okay, that you see in these products. Apart from firing it at these high temperatures, which makes it very, very hard, is one of the things that you have to consider is that if it gets chipped, if it's glazed porcelain, so you get things like glazed porcelain and full body porcelain, and you'd like to think that if it got chipped, it's going to be the same color all the way through. That's basically what full bodied porcelain is. And how they achieve high quality full bodied porcelain is by using high quality fillers. That's the materials that they used to make the porcelain. It's hydraulically pressed, it's fired at high temperatures, but it's about the fillers. The cheaper the fillers, the worse the worst product you're going to have. You know, it's just not going to maintain its integrity. So when you start cutting through with glazed porcelain, what's going to happen is that some of the water ingression is going to get through. So you want really full body porcelain. It comes at a cost. There's no ifs or buts about it. So these are the things that you have to consider when you're buying the porcelain. What you'll find at the moment, porcelain is being made all the way around the world. Generally the Italians and the Spanish have been making porcelain for a long time, and it's very good, but it doesn't mean to say that you're not going to get bad porcelain manufacturers in this country, though they are the leaders in manufacturing. And you'll have places like Turkey and China and India that are producing this now because they can see this is where the marketplace is in manufacturing porcelain. And there are suggestions that some of the these countries that are producing these products are actually making it on, for example, on Italian running gear, and they're putting stamps on the back saying it's made in Italy. So you've got to check out the ethnicity of your porcelain, fully understand what you're going to be installing in your garden, whether it's a contractor or whether it's you or whether it's a friend. You've just got to check out the ethnicity of your porcelain to see where it comes from. So important that you actually do that. You should be asking the suppliers as well where it comes from, and if they have any certification of the product itself. It's just so important. Of course, that you've got to make sure that your porcelain comes with a R11 rating for external use. Anything below than an R11 rating isn't suitable. It's not up to British standard. Okay, so you've got to make sure it comes with an R11 rating, and that's an approved slip test by the government, basically, to make sure that you ain't going to slip over. Though it doesn't mean to say that any wearing course, what we walk on a day-to-day basis, it won't get slippy. Even tarmac on motorways can get iced over, so take that into consideration. If you've got put fairy liquid oil on there, it's going to become slippy. So when people ask, well, it seems slippy because it's shiny, it's probably, you just got to take in consideration the R11. It's an official test, approved. Okay. The other thing, of course, is that porcelain the British standard for laying sandstone is a 1 in 84, okay, a 1 in 84, and sandstone has a high porosity value, so it's going to soak the water up, okay. When you have home stone or even riven stone, it's going to ingress into the structure of the stone quicker than what porcelain does. Porcelain the water tends to sit on top of the product because it has very little porosity value, and you have a thing called water tension, and the water will sit on the top for a while. It will evaporate and it will go. And that's why they suggest a 1 in 60 fall for porcelain, but that seems a lot, to be honest. It really does seem a lot. So you've got to make sure that you get the correct falls on there. You can do this, don't just fall it over 8 meters, you can fall it 4 meters one way and 4 meters the other way, and fall from the house. So you can have like a camber, what we call a cross fall. Think about getting the water over, getting it away over the shortest distance, just as they would do when they're building a road. They get the water away over the shortest distance as quickly as possible. That's what you've got to consider. Porcelain comes in 20 mil, and it comes in 10 mil, and it'll also come in 30 mil. When you look at, I get asked regularly, can you lay 10 mil outside? And some people will say no, you can't, but you can. But you need, then you have to think about laying it on a concrete bed, okay? If you're laying 10 mil and it needs to adhere to that concrete, it's so important, because if it doesn't adhere, it's just going to pop up. So there are different laying methods, but you can lay 10 mil outside, but you'd have to use an exterior adhesive. You couldn't necessarily, could you lay it on a mortar? Have to be very, very skillful to do that. 20 mil is what everybody's laying over here. In the States and other countries, areas where they have a freeze belt, they're laying on a 30 millimeter, what we call a 3 cm porcelain product, and they're laying it on sharp sand, okay? The Americans tend to do this because of this freeze thaw effect that they have out there. But there are places in the States and in Canada, and I'll give you an example. There is a company called Banus Stone, that's B-A-N-U-S, I think it is, Banus Stone in Canada. They actually lay on, they do wet lay, okay, and they have freezing conditions out there, and they suffer with the freeze thaw effect, and they lay their stone out there on a wet mix, okay, but internally they lay the wet mix on a concrete bed, okay, so everything's adhering, nothing's going to move. And yes, they'll probably have to put steel in it. So there are ways and there are methods. Doesn't mean to say that our way of laying products in the UK is always correct, and the same applies for anywhere across the world, you know. So there are different ways of laying porcelain. I know that you're going to ask questions from this video about these methods and about what porcelain you're having and how it should be laid. One of the things that I'm really concerned about at the moment, and I think it's so important, is that people say that porcelain doesn't need to be sealed. They say, why would you know, because it's got this shiny finish. But the fact is, if you looked at a piece of glass has micropores in there. That's why we clean windows, because they get dirty. The water, the dirt will hold on a piece of glass, and if it's going to hold on a piece of glass, it's going to hold on your porcelain. So your porcelain does need to be sealed, but probably the most important part of the patio that needs to be sealed is if you've got a cementatious grout, which is going to be porous, it's going to have a different structure to the porcelain, and that needs to be sealed. You know, the last thing I want is to go back to a project and go and knock on the door of a client, you know, a year on, and just call in by the off chance because I was passing, and go around and look at all the joints all green. Yes, it happens. Yes, we can power wash it and we can clean, okay? But wouldn't it be nice if you come back to a patio, having returned to a project and visiting the client, and look at it and think, hey, this is looking sharp, this is looking clean, this is looking nice. So when it comes to sealers, like I said, there's been lots said on this. You've got to make sure that you know what you're buying out there. Don't be using a top coat sealer like a varnish, because it's just going to sit on the surface. what you need is probably for porcelain and I spoke to Ryan, my friend, about this, who is a chemist, and you have to use an impregnating solvent sealer, and that's going to get down into the surface, but it's also going to allow the joints to breathe. You want your joints, your grouts to actually breathe, because if you don't allow it to breathe, then it's going to hold up underneath, and you're going to get all the moisture, and you're going to get problems basically. So you need a breathable solvent sealer, an impregnating solvent sealer. Hey, look, there's loads to say on this. I just wanted to give you an update of what I'm doing at the moment. I'm having a little bit of a moment on here now, just sat back and having a look, thinking of what I'm actually doing, because this is not just like laying sandstone. You're laying this porcelain, it's like laying a tile, and it's so unforgiving with the joints. We're using a 4mm joint, and that's a good point, a 4mm joint in this case. And the reason I'm using a 4mm joint is because it's not too big, but the 4mm allows the grout to get down in between the joints. Everybody will have their own opinion on what grout to use, and I can't comment on other grouts because I simply don't know them, because I've never used them. And sometimes we have to it's about risk and reward, and sometimes we do have to take a risk, and the reward is that if you're doing something that is really, that's going to work, and you've heard some good things about it, and that grout system is going to maintain its integrity, then it's probably worth the risk, because the last thing you want to do is to go back. This is a real investment for you as a contractor, and a real investment for the consumer, your client base as well. So, hey, look, so much to say, isn't there? So much to say about this. I find it really intriguing, and it's changing from day to day. People now are becoming real experts on laying on porcelain, and I don't know, we all got a lot to learn. Look, if you want any questions answered regarding this topic, just drop us an email at info@greentoplandscapes.co.uk, and don't forget to give this a like, and press the notification button. But the most important thing is, don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Have a nice day.